The Mafia is a world where money, violence, and power mix together in secret. Over time, some people in the Mafia have made huge fortunes by doing illegal activities, building criminal empires that became as rich as big businesses. These famous mobsters not only controlled the underworld, but they also got extremely wealthy. Here's a list of 10 of the richest and most notorious Mafia figures in history who made unbelievable amounts of money through crime. Tomaso Busetta. Tomaso Busetta was a key figure in Cosa Nostra, the Sicilian Mafia. He made his fortune primarily through heroin trafficking and international smuggling operations. However, what sets him apart is his dramatic shift from mafia insider to government informant. His cooperation with Italian and American authorities led to the downfall of numerous mafia figures, making him one of the most famous turncoats in mafia history. At his peak, Busetta's wealth was estimated to be around $5 million, modest compared to others on this list. Still, his betrayal forever changed the landscape of organized crime, marking the end of an era for many mafia families. Vincenzo Gigante. Vincenzo Gigante, known as Vinny the Chin, was the head of the powerful Genovese family in New York. Known for faking mental illness to avoid prosecution, Gigante controlled one of the most lucrative crime families in the United States. His operations included extortion, racketeering, and drug trafficking, all while maintaining an air of insanity to evade the law. Despite his eccentric behavior, Gigante amassed a fortune of $50 million. His strategy of pretending to be mentally unfit worked for decades, keeping him out of prison until he was finally convicted in the 1990s, long after securing his wealth and power. Joseph Bonano. Joseph Bonano was the leader of one of New York's 5 families, the Bonano family, and played a key role in shaping modern American organized crime. Known for his desire to keep his operations family-oriented, Bonano built a strong and enduring mafia empire. He was involved in drug trafficking, extortion, and a variety of other illicit enterprises. Over the years, Bonano's criminal empire grew, and his wealth was estimated at $80 million. Despite internal conflicts and an eventual forced retirement, Bonano's legacy endured, and his name remains synonymous with mafia power and wealth, with a focus on loyalty to the family. Salvatore Reena. Salvatore Reena, often referred to as Toto Reena, was one of the most feared leaders of the Sicilian Mafia, Cosa Nostra. His reign was marked by extreme violence, including the assassination of anti-mafia judges and politicians. Reena controlled large portions of the heroin trade in Europe, making him incredibly wealthy. His brutal tactics made him both feared and respected within the mafia world. Reena's wealth was estimated to be around $125 million, largely from drug trafficking and extortion. Despite his imprisonment in the 1990s, his reign of terror left a lasting legacy, and his wealth continued to support Cosa Nostra long after his capture. John Gotti. John Gotti, famously known as the Dapper Don for his flamboyant style and the Teflon Don for his ability to avoid conviction, was the head of the Gambino crime family in New York during the 1980s. Gotti became a media sensation with his flashy suits and public persona. Under his leadership, the Gambino family expanded its control over drug trafficking, extortion, and gambling. Gotti's wealth grew to an estimated $150 million, much of it made through his criminal operations. Despite multiple trials, Gotti managed to escape conviction for years until he was finally imprisoned for life in 1992, leaving behind a legacy of wealth and power. Frank Costello. Frank Costello was known as the Prime Minister of the Underworld, due to his influence not only over the mafia, but also in political circles. He was deeply involved in gambling and bootlegging during the Prohibition era, controlling a vast criminal empire. Costello had a unique ability to avoid violence, and instead preferred to use diplomacy and connections to gain power. His wealth was estimated at $300 million, accumulated through his control of illegal gambling operations across the U.S. Despite an assassination attempt and pressure from rivals, Costello remained a powerful figure in the mafia until his retirement, leaving behind a massive fortune. Lucky Luciano. Charles "Lucky" Luciano is often credited with creating the structure of modern organized crime in the United States. Luciano established the Commission, a governing body that controlled mafia operations across the country, which reduced violence between the families and allowed for more profitable collaboration. Luciano was deeply involved in drug trafficking, prostitution, and extortion. At the height of his power, his wealth was estimated to be around $500 million, making him one of the richest mafia figures in history. Even after his deportation to Italy, Luciano continued to influence the mafia from abroad, maintaining both his wealth and power. Meyer Lansky. Meyer Lansky was a mastermind in the world of organized crime. Known for his financial acumen, he played a pivotal role in creating and managing mafia finances, especially through his control of gambling operations in Las Vegas, Cuba, and the Bahamas. Lansky was a genius at money laundering and evading law enforcement, allowing him to amass a fortune while remaining largely out of the spotlight. His wealth was estimated at $600 million, but some speculate it could have been even higher, considering his ability to hide money in offshore accounts. Despite numerous investigations, Lansky avoided major legal consequences, leaving behind a legendary fortune. Carlo Gambino. Carlo Gambino led the Gambino crime family, one of the most powerful and profitable mafia families in history. Known for his quiet demeanor and preference for staying out of the public eye, Gambino ruled with a calculated and cautious approach. He avoided the flamboyance of other mafia bosses, which helped him evade law enforcement scrutiny for much of his life. His wealth was estimated at $700 million, much of it generated through extortion, loan sharking, and gambling. Gambino's careful and disciplined leadership allowed him to maintain control over the Gambino family until his peaceful death in 1976, a rarity in the world of organized crime. Vincenzo Gigante. Vincenzo Gigante, one of the most powerful and dangerous mafia figures in history, built his empire through drug trafficking, particularly heroin. Genovese's influence stretched across continents, and he used his international connections to dominate the heroin trade between Italy and the United States. His ruthlessness and strategic mind allowed him to accumulate a fortune estimated at over $1 billion, making him the richest mafia figure in history. Genovese's iron-fisted rule and immense wealth secured his place at the top of the criminal underworld. Despite his eventual imprisonment, his empire continued to thrive, leaving behind a legacy of power, fear, and unimaginable wealth. These 10 figures not only amassed immense fortunes, but also shaped the criminal underworld in ways that continue to resonate. Their stories are a mix of violence, cunning, and a relentless pursuit of power, driven by a desire for wealth that knew no bounds.